It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy has survived Hurricane Sandy. He'll join us along with Renee Ritchie of iMore and a rare visit from Alex Lindsay to talk about the big shakeup up top at Apple. MacBreak Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 323, recorded October 30th, 2012. Cook cleans house. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Pond 5. The world's stock media marketplace. If you're a media maker looking for video, photos, illustrations, music, sound effects, or After Effects templates and 3D models, check out pond5.com. And for an exclusive 15% off this month, use our offer code MacBreak10. And by American Express Bank FSB, offering a high-yield savings account, the perfect complement to help you reach your savings goals. To learn more and open an account online, visit personalsavings.com/online savings. Member FDIC. And by Ford, featuring available sync. Now you can control your media player using simple voice commands. Enjoy your drive while you easily search and listen to your favorite songs or podcasts. Check it out on the 2012 Ford Focus and at Ford.com/technology. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your iPhone, iPad, MacBook, or other smartphones. Find out what your gadget's worth at Gazelle.com. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers Apple's news. And boy, there's some Apple news. And we were here on Tuesday covering the announcement. Apple revved every single product in its line except the Mac Pro. And we're still waiting to hear on the Mac Pro. Anything?
I think we're going to wait for a long time.
We could do a bit. The Mac Pro held hostage, day 372. And just keep going and see how long. There is a Facebook page. Have you joined it yet? Liked it yet?
Which
Bring back the Mac Pro or something like that?
I've given up.
You don't think it's going to happen?
I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, you know who else is not coming back? So I did note that they did not bring Scott Forstall up on the stage, as they would be wont to do, to talk about iOS 6. They did release iOS stuff. They have a new iPad, and normally, but I guess we have all heard about iOS 6, so you could say credibly, well, there's nothing new on iOS. So Scott could just sit he was sitting there in the front row, not next to Johnny Ive, I might add.
They don't see eye to eye.
Apparently, we're learning a lot now.
Yes.
This is, I think that if you go to the Apple PR site, the apple.com/PR, now if you see the archival photo of Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive and the rest, there's this curious gap between Ive and Steve.
Yeah.
Just like in the old Soviet Union, people used to disappear from that photo of Stalin.
Well, apparently I've upset the chat room because here we are. This is
because they've never seen us before.
MacBreak 323, and I've neglected to introduce you all. So in order to soothe the very anxious chat room, there's some real nerves going on in there. Let me introduce, ladies and gentlemen, Andy Ihnatko. He's got the Hayward Fire Department hat on. Apparently that's where he is right now. You're not at home, I can tell.
No, I am at an undisclosed location, a place where I decided to relocate from my studio where there are no free-floating electrons in the power grid to this place right here where there are free-floating electrons in the power grid. I somehow thought that would help with the transmission of this broadcast because we lost power in the storm yesterday.
You don't have any power in your house?
None but the ones I brought with me. It's like the usual the 1960s disaster plans that says make sure you fill up the bathtub with water, fill the buckets with water.
Yeah.
You want to make sure before. It's just like that, when you have technology. So anything that has a battery in the house, spent 3 days charging up. So I've got UPSs that are disconnected from their desktops. They're just being used to recharge my iPad, recharge anything. Recharge all these other devices, which is weird because now that I'm relying solely on my iPad with LTE, I've actually got better bandwidth than I usually have on my home internet service. So I'm doing okay.
Well, I'm thrilled that you're all right, and no trees fell over, or
exactly
the squirrels are batting down the hatches, and
Well, it's weird. There's woodchucks, squirrels, and chipmunks, and I can usually count on it like about 45 minutes after the storm starts. There's always a little rapping low on the door, and I answer the door, and they don't say anything, but there's this expression that says, "We were worried that you might be scared because of all the storm. We thought we'd come in and help you not be scared." I have to pretend that, oh yes, they're here helping me, but Make cocoa for them. They're nice.
John
it's a good
Parkman in our chat room had a great suggestion. I would like to do a Kickstarter project, a Mophie case for your refrigerator.
Oh, that would be great.
just slide it right in.
It would be like the size of the refrigerator, though.
Oh, it would be bigger because it has to go around the refrigerator.
Yeah,
what's wrong with that?
But oh boy, if they change the dock connector for that, are you totally screwed?
That's Renee Ritchie, also here from imore.com, our newest panelist on MacBreak Weekly. Welcome back, Renee. Good to see you. How are things in Montreal? The storm didn't get that far north, did it?
It was windy and rainy, and my power usually goes out at the mere thought of storms. But so far, it's holding strong. So Hydro-Quebec is pulling through for me.
Yay, Hydro-Quebec. I love hydropower. It likes wind and water.
Turns out the water is a feature, not a bug.
Yeah. And that's Alex Lindsay. Oh, my God.
I'm here.
You're here in person, in the flesh. Look at that. Oh, my God.
Back.
So welcome back. Are you excited? You must be used to traveling.
Yeah, I feel fine.
You don't mind?
No. There's certain keys to it.
What's the key?
I drink a lot of coffee on the plane, and then I stay up for I stayed up for like 20 some hours straight. And then when you get home,
you sleep for 20 hours straight.
No. You fall asleep. The first day I'm a little woozy, and then by the second day I'm fine because it's just the key is getting your sleep schedule back on.
Well, you guys are I'm thrilled because basically I don't know what happened, but your business just took off, and that's why Alex isn't here that often. But we're thrilled when we can get you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And we had a great time. Did you see any of our pictures?
Where were you?
I was in Rwanda.
No, you're already back from Rwanda?
I went to Rwanda and back.
Where would I see those pictures?
Go up to G+. Go my G. I just put a small group of photos.
So you were hiding them then?
Yes. So yeah, go to just Alex Lindsay. I think that they should be there.
I really should probably every once in a while visit Google+.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's very quiet now. It's easy to go there. What happened? No. Oh, no. There's cat pictures still. I'm glad to see. As long as I've been gone, the cat pictures have not gone away. Here we go. Here's Alex.
So there's some photos.
So this is the Digital Media Academy you're calling. Oh, look at you in a tie.
Look at that. I'm all formal. Just double click on that. I think it'll pop up to full screen.
I can't remember how to use this.
Yeah. So, and then so that's me, and that is Jerome, and that's the Minister of Education.
That's great. So you're building a center in Rwanda.
This is our lab.
To teach Rwandans how to use digital media like 3D rendering,
3D video. So that's
these are
Alfred,
students or teachers?
Alfred in the center is one of our teachers from Nairobi. And then the rest of them are students.
That's fantastic.
And we have 24 students. We're about to add another 20.
Nice building.
Yes, we have. It's actually a really nice building. So
it's a great building.
We're very excited to be there. And
obviously the Rwandan government is thrilled because this is great for the economy, right?
Well, they have been extremely supportive. I mean, so that's what one of the things we were really waiting for was make sure that we had the right country to work in. So I've been going in and out for a decade, and in and out of Africa, and that was from my hotel.
Here's an iPhone pano from the hotel.
Yeah. So one of the things that the government is so focused on development. So I actually toured up and put some more photos up from their actual workforce development. But everything from welding to all kinds of Votech stuff, as well as what we're doing. We're all part of the same organization there.
Now I'm surprised because I thought Rwanda, it's in Africa, equatorial. I thought it'd be warm. Apparently, it's kind of cold there.
It's still in its 80s. That has nothing to do with me. That was just a funny video. Just so you know, it's like I was just like that was.
They really should clear the ice off.
That was a real.
Pool.
I know that was a repost. I was reposting that from somebody else that has nothing to do with me, but it is pretty funny.
Is he going to actually jump into the pool with ice?
I think he's going to give it a shot.
Oh, I don't. He's pretty bold.
This was just one of those.
Oh!
Yeah, that has nothing to do with the
Okay,
Academy.
for those of you not watching a video, just go to Alex Lindsay's Google Plus and scroll down. And the poor guy, I guess he thought he would break through the ice.
It didn't work out that way.
Didn't happen.
He broke through his coccyx.
His coccyx is hurting, but he is okay.
Yeah.
Glad to report he's standing up.
But yeah, so anyway. So yeah,
Anyway,
so the government, the big thing is that Rwanda has a lot of, they're focusing, they have fiber through the entire country. They have almost zero corruption. They have, and they're building really fast. Over half the population is under 15, so they have a lot of education to do. And so they need to build videos to educate the population. And so we're going to start training. I think we'll have up to 100 people next year.
And in truth, that's just the beginning, because there's many nations that would love to have this kind. And it's interesting because you see countries like Rwanda who didn't have any infrastructure kind of leapfrog stages that we went through, for instance, in internet and telephony. And just go to the next generation.
Yeah, they're not going to finish the hard lines to every location. It's all WiMAX. It's all It's fiber to the central locations and then out. And the government is moving. I mean, you can notice the difference every 6 months that when you visit there. And I'm going to have to visit a lot more often. But it's hard. I had dinner with the Minister of Education after the launch, and we were talking about how we've never seen a country move as fast as Rwanda. I mean, like you have a whole country moving the same direction at the same time without a lot of what we're used to here in the United States. And his response was, it took a genocide to get that to happen. Like, just make sure you're clear.
Fairly peaceful there now?
Yeah,
I mean, it was horrible.
It was, that's the reason everyone's moving there. They never want to go back.
Right.
So but it is.
So
it's moving very, very fast.
It is a democratically elected government now, or?
Yes,
and it's peaceful.
It's super safe. I mean, you really never feel like you're in danger. There's, I've walked around with my 5D and a big lens in the middle of the night.
Was 94. I mean, that's 18 years ago.
It's a long time ago. Yeah, okay. And they, obviously they are very vigilant as a country to make sure that they. But one of the things that Kagame has really worked on is getting rid of the term Hutu or Tutsi, and really we're all Rwandan. They're working to develop it for everyone, make the opportunities available for everyone, and so it is it's definitely something they're focused on. So
they just today sentenced Victoire Ingabire to jail after living abroad for 16 years. He was part of the genocide, I guess. So that's wow.
It's something that's constantly, it's
I mean, it's hard to get over that even 18 years later. It's just.
And what's surprising is how people can operate at all. I mean, that the fact that they are working so hard on it and producing so much is says a lot for the government and for for that process. And it's not done. It'll take a generation or two, to get that sorted out. I mean, it's not usually. I think they usually say it's 2 or 3 generations to get through a lot of that stuff. And but I've never seen any. Country work as hard as that. I have met Kagame, someone was asking, but not in Rwanda. Of all places. I met him in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So,
okay. There you go.
I was not staying in the
Hotel
Mikoline.
Rwanda.
That's the Mikoline. It's actually the Mikoline is
there
actually
is a Hotel Rwanda, but it's not called that. It's
called the Mikoline, and it is about 4 blocks from the school. So what they call, and it I hear it's a nice hotel. I haven't been to it.
So there was also a big storm, or still is going on back east, although it's I guess tapering off now, and a lot of things went down. You were starting the list, Renee Ritchie. Gizmodo, or actually all of Gawker was down, right?
HuffPo was down for a short amount of time. Squarespace, you just said before, rebooted. It's interesting. They kept their servers on overnight, but then they decided, I guess, for maintenance reasons, to reboot everything. And it canceled the Google event that was scheduled for Monday.
Yeah,
it was. New York was, I think they had pictures of taxi cabs kind of floating down the streets. It was
also a lot of pictures of things that didn't happen. There was apparently the shark pictures that Twitter was inundated with. There were no.
I remember that from Irene last year. Yeah.
Yeah, people love that stuff. There's Alexis Madrigal on The Atlantic did a really good job of debunking a lot of the Twitter pictures, and then there's also a Twitter feed. Or a Tumblr, I should say, feed called Twitter. I think it's Twitter is Wrong. That just and this is probably one to keep around. Is twitterwrong.tumblr.com. It's a good Tumblr to keep around because Twitter apparently posts. There's a lot of posts on Twitter that really, for instance, lots of pictures of thunderstorm cells, a certain kind of thunderstorm. Cell thunderstorm or something. Supercell.
Citation needed.
Yeah. And these pictures are real, but they're not. But they're actually something much less destructive than Sandy. Problem with a hurricane is it's kind of just boring. It's just kind of clouds and wind. These are all.
If you're lucky,
if you're lucky, it's boring.
Be careful.
This is posted on Twitter as an amazing photo of Sandy meeting the Statue of Liberty. Of course not. It's a supercell thunderstorm. That's a nice job taking a picture from the day after tomorrow and adding the NY1 live cam lower third onto it. So this is good. But now this is real. And some of this stuff is devastating. This is one of the shark pictures. And Alexis Madrigal has published this at the Atlantic Monthly, and they're trying to track it down. I suppose there's no reason why you couldn't have fish. But I think sharks and other fish would probably try to stay out of that. That one's obviously fake. You're not going to see
that first one looked really good.
The first one is a good fake if it's a fake.
It could be done. You could fake it that way.
Sure. And that one, this is
too close.
This is actually the first thing you find if you search for shark fin in Google image search. And then
if there was a Mac Pro sighted in the storm, that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I'd love that, huh? There's another shark.
All I can say is well done.
Yeah, swimming along on the West Side Highway there.
I commend you for the creativity.
We've now apparently this has been a fake. This is a fake.
I think you can see the transition. So right past the house, you can see how the color transitions and the size of the size of the ripples. I think that was probably where they made the transition.
You could make a good living, Alex Lindsay, as a Photoshop fake detector. I mean, really,
that'd be like MythBusters except for photos.
We should. Okay, now we're going to do 2 new segments. We're going to do fact checking on commercials and then Photoshop fakes. I think we could. This could be. This is a good one. This is a good fake. Sharks in the mall. Oh no, that's Toronto's Union Station. Okay, these are all fakes.
One of those famous Toronto sharks. This
one's real, and that's a little scary. There's one of the water flooding the Path station in New Jersey that's real. Some pretty dramatic stuff. Anyway. You can't believe everything you read. However, Andy, you're on the spot, and obviously it was nothing. Had you experienced to sneeze at? You'd not experienced anything like that, I'm sure. Irene wasn't like this.
It really depends on where you are. I've been through a couple New England storms that were a lot worse than this. Most of them were snow events. It really depends on, of course, where you are. Yeah. I just heard this morning at breakfast. I went to breakfast out. I just decided to drive a whiles away to be with friends and have some hot food. A restaurant that proudly had this little rebuilt after a 1994 storm that had mounted about chest high around the restaurant. This is where the floodwaters were when we were destroyed in 1994, and that restaurant got destroyed in this storm too. So. Wow. That's why I always one of the other photos that tends to get forwarded around as a meme is when a picture. Oh my God! Look at all the hurricane disaster, and there's a picture of one patio chair that's on its back on the porch. Said, yeah. Not everybody got off quite so lucky. There are some people who are now completely wiped out with their businesses and homes. But hey, funny photo.
Yeah. I don't want to make light of it in any event, and certainly I have family members there, and. We wish everybody well. And what's interesting is how much it did affect the internet. It's how much stuff comes out of New York City, and how the power being out. Our good friend Dick Bartolo, of course, lives on the Upper West Side in New York City. His boat is just a few blocks away at the boat basin there. He says the worst storm I've ever seen in New York City, the highest tides ever, and some of us were watching. His drop cam of the boat, and eventually went dead because power went out there. But he says his work boat did make it through the storm. Of course, Dick himself survived. And there's a great bunch of posts at gizwiz.biz on his blog that you might want to take a look at.
It's amazing how many people stayed on the internet even without power and even with the rain coming in. And there was a tweet from the New York Fire Department saying, please don't tweet us disaster reports. Please call 911.
In fact, I even saw an article, how to continue to use Twitter when the power goes out. It's like, this has become our bread and butter, right?
But also, it does change. The technology has changed the way that we respond to these disasters. I remember the blizzard of '78, which for anybody above the age of 35 who grew up in New England is one of the hallmark memories of childhood, where the main 4-lane highway, 2-lane 4-lane highway that connects all of Eastern Massachusetts was covered in snow for 2 days. My dad actually brought in a state trooper whose car broke down, and we had him over for lunch one of the days we were snowed in. It was just a huge sense of community, and everybody on their sleds on Route 1, trying to get from town to town to check on relatives. Now, like I said, I've got surrounding me right now, I've got about 24 hours worth of battery-backed access to the internet. And so I can still email people, I can still tweet people, I can still text to find out if people are okay. If I needed to, I could even have done this show from my house without any power. I've got an HD camera on the iPad. I've got LTE that would have worked just fine. And so maybe, unfortunately, maybe that's turned us from people who react to these natural disasters by tightening our bonds to our community to people who tend to do that by hunkering down a little bit tighter inside our houses.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to take a break because I know the big story, the lead, and I'm burying the lead, but we mentioned it at the top, is Scott Forstall out at Apple. And in the process of this, a lot of reporting being done by Nick Bilton at the New York Times, Ohm Malik at GigaOhm, John Gruber, Fortune, about what it's like inside Apple right now, and some interesting revelations. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, we want to welcome back our friends at Pond 5. Haven't heard from them in a while. Pond 5 is a... Let me make sure their site is up. Well, yes, it is. Before we go there, Pond 5 is a great place, the world's stock media marketplace. If you're a media creator and you use stock footage, stock images, stock illustrations, music tracks, or sound effects, even After Effects projects, you got to know about Pond 5. But also, if you create any of the above, in fact, I remember talking to the Pond 5 guys at CES last year, and they said, you know what's in, or maybe it was NAB. It was at NAB. He said, what's interesting is most of the people who have accounts, or many of the people who have accounts at Pond 5, both buy and sell. Because if you're somebody like Alex and you've got a 5D and you're shooting amazing videos, this is a great place to go. You set the price,
especially if you're buying a lot of them. A lot of times you want to post them because it offsets your costs.
Right? Yeah, it could end up costing you. Here's this week's free stock footage. Is kind of appropriate. Storm cloud time lapse. Look at that. So every week they have a free. It won't have the watermark on it. They have the free download, and you just add it to your cart. Pond 5 is kind of amazing. I mean, look at the count. I got to go back to the front page because every time I go here, I look. So they have 1.3 million video clips, 11,000 new ones this week alone. They have 8 million photos, 37,000 new ones this week alone. 718,000 illustrations, almost 1,000 fresh this week. 75,000 music tracks. That's nice for if you're a podcaster or you're looking for theme music. 269,000 sound effects. 2,476 After Effects projects, and there's hundreds new each week in each category. In some cases, thousands new.
And this is, by the way, a lot of times people are wondering whether you're doing a presentation or you're building a video, and you want to figure out where to find photos. A lot of people mistakenly go up there and they just download whatever they find on Google.
Don't do it.
And that's opening yourself up to a lot of trouble. And so finding ways to get images that are copyright.
This is what they call royalty free.
Yeah, and getting that royalty free means that you're in legal good stead.
Right,
definitely the way to go.
And it's a good way. It's a fair way to do it because people who sell on Pond 5 are getting the largest royalties in the business. Pond 5 lets them set the price, which is great. You can even make money on Pond 5 through an affiliate program. I just think these guys are really a modern media marketplace. They really have figured it out. So here's the deal. If you go to pond5.com, fill up your shopping basket, take a look at all the different things there, and then when you check out, I want you to use our offer code, MacBreak10, and you'll take 15% off whatever you buy. I think it's good all months. 15% off. MacBreak 10, they pay 50% royalties for every sale, which is the best of any stock photo business. It's incredible. And letting people set the price really means they can say how much they're going to make on something. So you're doing a favor to the artists who are creating these videos and pictures, and you might even want to consider selling as well if you're a good photographer or videographer or sound effects guy or you make music. Pond5.com, P-O-N-D and the number 5.com. And when you check out all month long, use MacBreak10 to get 15% off for the month of October. There's not much left.
Go, go, go.
I just realized there's 2 days. You better hurry. And I'm sure, yeah, you better hurry. I was going to say I'm sure we'll have something for next month, but I'm not. I don't actually know. So Pond 5 use MacBreak 10 this month only. I was kind of shocked when I started seeing on the Twitter yesterday, Forstall out. Scott Forstall is one of the original Next employees. He was a very good friend of Steve Jobs. Jobs brought him over when Apple bought Next and acquired, in a trade, acquired Steve Jobs for a player to be named later. And for a long time was considered the, inside track for CEO. Now, it turns out that might not be the case, that maybe the only person who thought he was on the inside track for CEO was Scott Forstall himself. Because
oh no, you didn't.
Is that inappropriate? I don't know. People have been saying, for instance, I can't remember who. Somebody said people are going out to bars and celebrating upon receiving the news that Forstall's out.
I think that was Ohm Malik had that in his report.
I think Ohm said that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how fast the knives came out. After the press release was very interestingly timed. It came out when the stock markets were closed, when the storm was hitting, after Apple had just shipped an unprecedented amount of devices. Both iOS 6 and Mountain Lion had shipped. So Apple's cleared the deck for the year. The stock won't be traded for a few days. The press release comes out, doesn't even thank Scott Forstall for any amount of service, just basically says this is the new guard. We're dividing up. All design is Johnny Ive. All internet and services is Eddie Q. All the new technology division is Bob Mansfield. All software engineering is Craig Federighi. And then a couple hours later, the usual sources, the New York Times, Fortune, started getting these reports about him being. And these were seeded. I think we discussed this last time, Leo. For a couple of months, there's been reports coming in magazines or newspapers about Forstall being hard to work with, butting heads with Johnny Ive, having a lot of ambitions, and then all the reports just came out. And I think a lot of them focused on him refusing to take responsibility for Maps and refusing to sign the apology letter that Tim Cook eventually signed as being sort of the last straw at Apple.
That's kind of the interesting gossip was that I would guess that Tim Cook has decided, as a team, the executives decided, look, we got to do something about this Maps debacle.
Can we just put one thing out there though, that rumors are never the result of a reporter doggedly pursuing an idea and proving a hunch. They're always the result of somebody who wanted to talk to the press and get a piece of information out there. So it could have been just as simple as someone inside Apple knew that the writing was on the wall, had bad dealings with this person, and was eager to be the first one to make sure people knew exactly what was happening the next couple of weeks. It could have been something else. I mean, unfortunately, I have sources inside Apple, but they're usually friendly sources. They're not like news sources, so I can't really say one way or another. But really, every time that I hear a rumor, the first question that you should ask is, why did somebody decide to release this piece of information, and why did they choose that person to say it to? Because that usually colors how you will interpret how that information comes out.
Thank you for saying that, because that is but I'm now going to read the rumors.
And there were all a bunch of very similar rumors given to a bunch of very usual sources.
I think Andy's point is well taken, that we don't really know. This is all just so. In fact, Ohm Malik wrote, there's been a lot of talk about Scott Forstall being asked to sign an apology letter for the Apple Maps debacle. He refused. None of my sources, according to Ohm, were able to confirm this. Although the New York Times, Nick Bilton and Nick Wingfield of the New York Times writing that they had heard that from multiple sources. It would make sense. I mean, it's Tim Cook who signed it. The CEO would normally sign it. Steve Jobs would have signed it. He has done something similar in the past, put an open letter on the front page of Apple.com.
Although Bob Mansfield did the EP letter most recently, it wasn't Tim Cook; it was Bob Mansfield apologizing. For that.
Of course, he didn't stay out of Apple for very long. That's one other story. But that's a
well. In fact, he and Johnny Ive are the big winners here. Mansfield, for the first time ever at Apple, has responsibilities in every area. He's in charge of a new team called Technologies, which, according to the release, covers every area of Apple. Including mobile as well as desktop,
and one of these
particularly CPUs, internally CPU development.
Well, I think one of the things that's really important and I think encouraging about what Apple's doing is that they are cutting away what they consider dead weight, and they're doubling down on what they consider talent. So you're seeing that they basically let him redefine his role, because he's someone who makes a difference in the company. They took two people that they didn't think were shaking out and moved them out.
It also underscores the way that Apple tends to run their business. They tend to see themselves as makers of one product, and that is everything that Apple makes. And so now there's a more explicit management style that says that this guy is not responsible for just one product. He's responsible for one feature that we now articulate across mobile and desktops. I almost think that there should be a new name for a certain type of senior Apple executive title. That is czar. Like you are the user experience czar, you are the manufacturing czar, you are the embedded technology czar, because it's not as though you're just going to be focused on music apps. You're going to be focused on every possible place where this wonderful technology and this aesthetic can be applied with an Apple logo on it.
It's interesting that Mansfield came back, a couple of months ago, and Curtis B's asking in the chat room, do you think that was part of the conversation that Tim Cook had with Mansfield, which was, hey, Bob, just between us, there's going to be some changes, there's going to be a reorganization, and we have an expanded role for you. Would this be enough to keep you, this and $2 million a month?
I think that, I bet you we're all making this up now, but I think that the conversation
yeah, we are. And Andy, your point is so well taken. This is all
we're beyond rumors now. We're
pure speculation.
We've left rumors behind us, and we're moving to speculation. That's our job. This is so
we are like the View for technology.
We're the View. You're Barbara Walters. I'm Whoopi Goldberg.
Our little oval table.
You're that
and we talk.
That old lady. What's her name? And you're the beautiful blonde Renee Ritchie. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
But I think that one of the things I think we're seeing at Apple is that a lot of this pushing is typical. If you see a family with a heavy-handed patriarch who ran the family for a long time, made everything work, and is now gone, and suddenly all these festering things that no one was able to say when he was around is now coming up to the surface.
Well, and that is certainly the case. That this is now, no question, Tim Cook's Apple. Scott Forstall, who was absolutely in Steve Jobs, one of Steve Jobs' close friends, was probably protected by Steve Jobs. If it's true that he wasn't well liked at Apple, didn't matter because he was Steve's guy.
Right.
With Steve gone, Tim Cook is clearly putting his stamp on Apple. The cause for celebration with a lot of people is that Johnny Ive has been put in charge of what they call human interface across the board. And many people said, again, we don't know, that the skeuomorphic design that I hate so much in Apple, look at Game Center, just disgusting, was a Scott Forstall, and that Johnny Ive, there was one interview with Johnny in a British newspaper,
The Telegraph,
where they asked him about it, and he politely, but it was clear he was polite and didn't criticize it, but it was clear he wasn't thrilled with that. It wasn't modern, and certainly most modern designers agree that is kind of, we don't need to do that. We don't need leather and stitching anymore.
There's a big debate in the design community about, and a lot of stuff that's called skeuomorphism isn't skeuomorphism. Skeuomorphism is when you use a real life analog to try to make an application more accessible, where something like Game Center or Find My Friends is just a skin. It's just they put a stitched leather skin.
It doesn't add to functionality. Yeah.
Yeah, and that isn't even skeuomorphism. That's just generally that's a skin. It's an art job, and that rift. Johnny Ive, if you listen to his videos, he's very, very much about minimalism and about sort of a digital authenticity, which really isn't the vibe you get from a lot of the iOS products. And I think Matt Drance from Apple Insider framed it really nicely when he said that a lot of companies, as they grow, especially as the founders are no longer with us, they tend to fall into small fiefdoms, and they tend to get bigger than they become manageable. And this looked like a move from Tim Cook to make Apple sane again, because now Eddie Q is just in charge of all the services, including Siri and Maps, and Johnny Ive is in charge of all the design, including hardware and software. And everyone has a very clear, instead of being siloed, there's no iOS guy and OS 10 software guy now. Everyone has their cross-company purpose.
Nick Donnelly, who's a designer and writes a blog called Usability Hell, actually last week, October 15th, published a blog post saying, fire Scott Forstall because of skeuomorphism. And
Steve Jobs loves skeuomorphism. It's not all
apparently Steve liked it. And he also reports on this issue Johnny Ive and Scott Forstall not getting together. According to O'Malley, they wouldn't even go to the same meetings together. Somebody who was pitching something to Apple had to go to 2 different meetings because Ive wouldn't appear in the same room with Scott Forstall. Again, pure rumor. There's a wonderful Tumblr, I think this is it, that highlights bad skeuomorphic design and defending the leather design philosophy of Apple. You know, it's just, this is a good example, which is Apple's Notes app, which has a leather binder. This doesn't add to the functionality. In fact, it just takes up room on the screen.
I personally think people would like it better if the actual quality of the skeuomorphism was better.
You think it's just badly done?
Horrible done. Well, like I open it, I'm just like,
the tape machine in the podcast app.
That's painful.
Make the podcast app work first,
right.
Then spend energy on having the reels have the right amount of tape on them.
Yeah. Well, like for instance, like the perfect example is the podcast app where that little red line is impossible to grab onto. You know, like it's all these things that are
Dribble is another great place. DRIBBLE, designers' website. They have a lot of great skeuomorphic.
Yeah.
I heart skeuomorphism. Here's a good example. I heart skeuomorphism with an actual heart. Instead of
I don't want to be the defense skeuomorphism guy, but the school of thought for it is, if you take Find My Friends, it's a drab database app, and the leather from Steve Jobs' airplane couch was thought to, make it a little friendlier if your mom or your father or your non-tech savvy kid.
That's just giving Samsung ammunition to say the iPhone is designed for your folks. I think, however you feel about Microsoft and Windows, Microsoft's clearly responding to this with Windows 8. And this Metro interface, which has not only no skeuomorphism, no rounded corners, no drop shadows, they're just
gradient.
squares, no gradient. And that, I think this is more modern.
They call it digitally authentic.
And it extends to applications too. I mean, it translates really nicely when you get an app developer who really gets it and wants to extend this to basically any metaphor they want to use it for. I mean, this is a Twitter client, and it's... I'm liking it a lot for exactly that reason. I mean, it's not at all. There's nothing here that has a direct analog to the real world, but it's just a really good context for a really good set of Legos to snap together to build a user interface from.
I wonder how long before new versions of Game Center and Notes and
I think that I think
now.
that. Yeah, I honestly think that by January at the latest, we're just going to see incremental updates in which the reel-to-reel is gone, in which the felt in the Game Center has changed to something a little different. I agree with you in that what's really galling is when you have an app like the podcast app, and you realize that, oh God, wow, what a beautiful reel-to-reel. That, hey, look, when it's starting to play, then there's more tape on the left reel than on the right wheel. Yeah, but when it interrupts the download, it never completes, and there's no way to reset it without deleting it in progress. And then
resets all your unplayed podcasts.
just spend a little more energy,
Exactly.
get the engineering done, and then you can dress it up.
And for the listeners,
get the podcast, play the podcast. Then you get to go. It's like Olympic skating. There's the compulsory part of the competition, and then once you nail the compulsories, then you can enter the freestyle part of the competition. Downloading the podcast and playing the podcast is the compulsories.
You know what I'd love to see from our listeners is ideas about how the podcast app should look. Like they should post them.
Well, and I agree. Look, design is very trendy. Design styles change. That's why you can look back at Mad Men and see the unique style. That's fine. But it's, I think there's general agreement that we no longer need to have real-world analogs forced on us in design, especially if it takes up space, if it doesn't add to the usability. We get it. We understand this is a digital medium now. I don't need to see my desktop and torn paper at the top of my notepad to know it's a notepad.
It's interesting, though, because you have iOS is meant from the beginning, from the way they design the products, to be a screen that you can fill with anything. They deliberately make the device disappear as much as possible. And that gives us a lot of benefits because designers can literally make anything they want to fill that screen. And we get stuff like pull to refresh, and we get apps that come out like Tapbot apps, or apps that are very influential in the design community, where Windows 8 or Windows 7 before it, Windows Phone 7 especially, it's a much more elegant experience, but it's a much more uniform experience, and you are constrained to that what they call digitally authentic experience, which is great for people who are digitally native, who are used to reading websites and used to all those other things. But it's not so great for people who are like digital immigrants who are coming and are new to technology and like having their newspaper laid out for them, fake as it may be on the screen.
There's a good post on The Verge from last month. Hold on a second. I just want to show you this. Mountain lion without skeuomorphism. This post, which I point people to on The Verge, shows you how to remove all these little design elements. There are mods for all of these so that you can just get very clean, simple UI.
I bet that was like the beginning of the end for some person's career. Dude, the number 3 paid app on the App Store is an app that removes all the skeuomorphism on all of these apps.
Yeah, no more linen, no more leather.
Clearly, we're not reaching a lot of people with these design elements.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just this could lead to a distraction, so I'll make it quick. The flip side of the coin, what Renee was talking about though, is that when you have a blank canvas, that means that there's no consistency across the experience. And this is what I'm preparing part 2 of my Surface RT review, and one of the things I'm trying to enunciate clearly is that I like the idea that there are easy ways to make a multi-touch operating system where the user knows how to get at a menu command, where the user knows how to get to the settings in app after app after app, where they don't feel like they have to relearn every single app. I mean, you look at the difference between the way on the iPad, 2 of my favorite iOS apps. If I were to come up with a list of the 5 absolutely killer must-have iPad apps for me, one of them would be iPhoto, the other one would be Keynote, and they're so completely different in the way they work, where iPhoto, they had to really just simply say, there's no way to make a powerful photo editor without putting all these controls on the screen. We'll just hope that it sorts out.
You're talking about iOS iPhoto, which is...
Exactly, yeah. iOS iPhoto. Then there's Keynote, in which it's a very, very minimalist blank canvas sort of app, where it took me a while to learn how powerful it is, because so many of the features, there's not a menu, there isn't a button. You have to really learn how to press and hold onto things just to see what happens. So they're both fantastic top drawer apps. I wonder how they would be different if there were a way, if there was a design language for the developers to make menu structures and like under the surface commands easier to find. So it's just 2 sides of the same coin.
I would love to get a link to this, but apparently Johnny Ive's bachelor's thesis was in design was a phone that looked like a question mark. I don't know if that's a skeuomorphism or not. I don't think it is. I think it's
satirical.
You ever think of the beer bong that Johnny Ive designed when he was in college? That must have been the most beautiful, elegant, simple, and functional beer bong any college student ever made.
I did that beer bong, actually. It was. It's gorgeous.
I forget who said it, but announcing Johnny Ive as taking over design at Apple, I think immediately settle down everybody, and any fears that you would have about Scott Forstall not being there.
Yes.
You just hear the word Johnny Ive and you're immediately calm.
He's currently the superstar, isn't he not? Yeah. And Bob Mansfield maybe too, because production is so good. And Tim Cook, who was, before he was CEO, was really responsible for production. That's why you could see these Apple devices in so many countries right out of the box, why they're able to crank them out at such high speed, and to do stuff like the iPhone 5, which is so detailed and perfection in design. Now, one more firing, by the way. The guy in charge who had just been brought in, John Browett, had just been brought in for retail in April. He was the guy who announced and then had to retract the announcement that he was going to cut the number of retail employees. He had come from a British firm called Dixon's, which was kind of down market. And some people had
really
said,
down market. I think
people really down market. They said
universally reviled.
Yeah, basically, like the wrong guy.
Yeah.
So this is it's clear that what's going on. This is Tim Cook saying, "Okay, it's been a year. This is how I want the company to be run."
Putting his house in order.
He's putting his house in order, and time will tell if he's made the right choices or not. Times are a little challenging for Apple, and already they've got a broad variety of SKUs. When one of the things Steve Jobs was famous for was, simplifying the product line. They've got iPads up the wazoo. There's confusion between the iPod Touch and the iPad Mini.
Right.
There's some things happening that maybe, in fact, some have said, maybe are starting to show the wheels wobble a little bit. Not that
I mean, that's the question. Is Apple fraying around the edges? Are they doing too many products at once? And now Johnny Ive, Bob Mansfield, Craig Federighi, they all had a ton of things on their portfolios already, and now they all have extra things. And those people, as fantastic as they are only human. And I think John Gruber noted this too, that was interesting by the absence. There was no mention whatsoever of Phil Schiller in any of these announcements or stories.
He's not been moved up, has he?
Or move it. There was some feeling that he's behind Cook now, that he's the number 2 guy at Apple, and that's why he's not involved in any of the lower down politicking.
Really? Now, Renee, is it a really nice coincidence that to your over the shoulder there is Palpatine behind Vader on a poster?
I moved it specifically, Andy, and I thought you might notice.
I also don't note that any of these guys have much experience with cloud architectures, cloud services, software as a service. These are all things Apple does not do very well right now. And I would like to see somebody. These are hardware guys for the most part, right?
And they're hiring cloud guys like crazy. I mean, they're looking for. I think there was a report they went to a jobs fair looking for them a while ago.
Yeah, that's where you find the superstars. Go to the jobs fairs. Somebody also pointed out, and I wish I could find the article, and I'm sure the chat room will tell me. I know I bookmarked it, that Apple has moved it to a new way of shipping on schedule as opposed to shipping when it's done. I don't know if this is the case or not. Actually, the reason I bring it up is to ask you guys what you think. But this article posited that the reason Maps and Siri under Forstall were such failures is that they had to get them out at a certain time and that they weren't really done.
Well, I think one of the challenges when we look at when the iPhone was released, the iPhone 5, is that while we only saw revenue from the first week, I think that was important for, I mean, I don't think Apple necessarily always pays attention to that, but I think it was important for their quarterly earnings.
Right.
You know, to have it ship, you know, and so, and, you know, iPhone, you have a lot of things that are all tied up in that. It's a significant chunk.
I mean, it happened before. I mean, everything they said this would never have happened under Steve Jobs happened multiple times under Steve Jobs. Right. Mobile Me wasn't ready. The iPhone 3G plus App Store plus Mobile Me was far too scheduled a shipping date. And you can go through example after example of things that Apple put out probably when they shouldn't have. So, I mean, it's maybe true that Tim Cook is a logistics guy, an execution guy, and he does make schedules for things where Steve Jobs was more of a passionate sort of gut feeling guy. But in an entire executive team, that stuff mostly gets smoothed out and rounded out before a product hits.
Yeah. Also, Maps and Siri have a common denominator between the two of them. They were both apps that were never going to be complete until millions of people started using them. At some point, they were just going to have to swallow that tablespoon of cough syrup, grimace for however long it's going to take to grimace, and just stick it through until they get it actually right. What's the old saying that there's no such thing as final release candidate. There's just the wider beta test when you finally release a product, and that's Siri and Maps are the sort of things where they're gonna stink for the first 2 or 3 months, no matter what. Yeah, but I mean, here's the problem with that is that with Maps, I knew some beta testers. I wasn't beta testing it, but I knew some that will remain nameless, who all when they saw that it was about to be released was like, well, hopefully people won't beat up on Maps too much. I mean, it was clear that they knew that there were problems with it when they released it.
Would Scott have done better had he not said, when introducing Maps, this is the best map app ever? And
would have helped.
If he had said this is beta and...
Well, after saying that, what really would have helped is for him to sign the apology. Letter. I mean, I can tell you right now, as a CEO of a company, if I told someone after it was their product that screwed up that they should sign an apology and they said no,
He's gone.
They'd be gone.
Like, but we don't know that that's what happened. That's just a rumor. But you're absolutely right. That's kind of impolitic.
Like, I would just be like, okay, you're fired.
Yeah.
So,
you're going to make me take the fall?
Yeah.
Okay, I will, but that's your last act.
And let's not feel too bad for Scott Forstall. I mean, this guy has been at Apple since the late 90s. He has probably enough stock to never have to work again. And if he decides to work for Google or Microsoft, they will hire him with a hefty salary immediately, which is why Apple's going to keep him as a consultant for the undisclosed future.
By the way, it was an Om Malik's analysis that he was the one who said this moving to this schedule was going to be a problem long term. He says from a long term point of view.
Well, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're Apple's now big enough and popular enough. There are too many eyes on it. That now they would be a huge deal if they did not come out with a new iPhone at least once a year. They can move it around the schedule if they want to, but they have to come out with a new iPhone every year.
That's called what's just really being a business. There's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think what's really going to be biting them in the butt is that a lot of the language that's been coming out from these media events has been, for lack of a better word, needlessly superlative. Where the iPad Mini looks like a fantastic
humility, guys.
Well, let me get to what I want to say.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful device. You know, it's going to be extremely well designed. It's going to run iOS iPad software, so you know it's going to be fantastic. When you then decide to keep running with it and start saying about how the Nexus 7 is terrible because it has a plastic back, that, hey, look, if you factor in only the amount of screen in a web browser that has web browser content, why it's 400% larger screen than the Nexus 7. Apple makes superlative products that largely can speak for themselves, and I think that where they've gotten into trouble in the past is by saying, as you referred to earlier, we think it's the best map software ever made. At which point, not just like, wiry tech journalists, I'm talking about everybody just arches an eyebrow saying it's really the best map software ever. It's like saying that this new kind of dish is indestructible. It is impossible to break this dish.
Or this ship will never sink.
Exactly. Next step, let's see if we can break it.
Right. Well, and I do think that I will watch a lot of these events and kind of roll my eyes when you hear the best and all the superlatives. I mean, I do think that Apple could, tone that down a little bit as they start to release these, because there's a lot of great stuff coming out right now. And I think that, and they produce a lot of great things. I think that I definitely think that leading with the product is something that's easy for them to do, and there's not a real reason for them. I guess it's also trying to maintain the the distortion field, which I think Steve was able to maintain, but I don't think it necessarily works for everybody else.
It does take a
certain
skill.
Yeah,
to do that.
Bit of a swagger.
Yeah. Certain powerful personality.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Maybe it was the turtleneck.
Yeah. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the Mini's coming out Friday.
Yes.
But it's been a week now since the announcements. I would like to get some of your takes. Nobody's got the iPad Mini yet, so
no.
You don't? Do you have one, Renee, for review, or Andy?
Andy, what do you think of the Mini?
He doesn't have his dog with him.
You can't go.
Buster is back in the office. But... Hello, Buster. If you're watching on the live feed, go doggy.
All right, we will have more in just a bit. I want to tell you our show is brought to you today by, believe it or not, I'm so pleased to welcome them, the American Express Bank, FSB, American Express. I've been an American Express card holder since 1981. I've been a big fan, but I did not know that they have a savings bank. You can read more about it online at personalsavings.com/online savings. Personalsavings.com/online savings. The idea is to encourage something we all should be doing a lot more of, saving, whether it's for a rainy day, to buy a house or a car, or just putting away a little bit of what we earn on a regular basis. But you want to do it somewhere where you're going to get high yield, for instance, because you want to make some money on those savings. And you want to do it without having a lot of complications. This is an online savings bank that will tie into your existing bank accounts. You're not switching banks. It's very easy to transfer money into and out of via phone or web 24/7. No minimums, no fees. Great phone support whenever you want to talk to somebody. It's a great complement for your existing financial planning. And I'll tell you, compare this to your bank's savings rate. The American Express Personal Savings High Yield Savings Account. It's an FDIC insured account offered by American Express Bank, FSB, for your savings needs. Visit it online. Find out more. Couldn't hurt. Personalsavings.com/online savings. Make this part of your resolution to get a little ahead. You know, I've lived from paycheck to paycheck so long. The idea of having a little savings is appealing.
That's just crazy talk.
Crazy talk, isn't it? What is the savings rate in the United States has just plummeted to nothing?
That's because cash will be worthless soon enough.
Don't say that. You're going to move to Rwanda and live on gold sovereigns. Say again, Andy?
canned baked bean futures are through the roof, though.
Yeah, exactly.
They are in New England. American Express Savings Bank, FSB. Member FDIC. Visit online, personalsavings. I got it wrong. Personalsavings.com/ I got it wrong. I got to get it right.
Personalsavings.com/online
savings. I did get it.
You were great. Yeah.
I was on the way.
Yeah.
I didn't trust myself. Big mistake. We thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly.
You know you're getting big when American Express is advertising.
I am so thrilled. I mean, I got to tell you.
We almost got like a pro golfer demographic now.
I think so.
It's like
we got Ford, we got American Express.
We are so far beyond like the payday loan like commercials.
Exactly. Well, I got an email from somebody who said, I can't believe you're advertising American Express instead of a tech company. Well, first of all, it is tech because it's an online savings bank. But no, I would actually prefer to have non-tech ads, right? Because
then there's no feeling of conflict.
There's no conflict.
Else,
yeah. It's just Yep. So I'm thrilled, and we really are. I'm thrilled to have them. How do you like my nice? This is a little European.
Yeah, that was one way to.
I just got this in the mail. I got my for my Nexus, because I know we're not supposed to talk about the Nexus, but for my Nexus, Galaxy Note. It's for the big one.
I think my mom had a checkbook cover that looked a lot like that.
I just got a white leather case for it.
It's very
very momish.
Cute.
You need sunglasses for that.
Well, I have a white
big
phone.
Sunglasses.
I thought it would match.
Large sunglasses.
Yeah, it's kind of huge.
Onassis. You need some Onassis.
Why are you carrying your purse in your pocket? Oh, it's not a purse. It's a European carry-all.
I think you need a pad. Yeah, it's a man.
And we have a title.
Speaking of mini pads, what do you guys think? A week afterwards, I presume we have all ordered them.
I'm still behind. I was in another
I was
country.
like Alex on a plane. I was shoveling coffee down every 30 minutes to stay awake long enough to get to the pre-orders at 3 a.m. Eastern time.
I did that. And did you? Yeah.
I was on another continent. That's my excuse.
So you didn't order one. Well, I'll have one Friday.
No, we're going to get like 5.
You can come over Friday.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
You've seen the Conan O'Brien, yes? Should we do it? Should we get banned once again?
We don't want to really stream on YouTube anyway.
I love it that Conan has. He clearly knows he has a tech audience because he doesn't hide the tech, right? He does stuff. Well, here it is. The first iPad Mini TV ad from Conan.
Yesterday,
O'Brien.
Apple announced the release of their new iPad Mini. Yeah, and there's an ad out there. I found the ad for the new product. I thought it was a little condescending. Take a look.
Spend your money, spend your money, spend your money, spend your money.
You will buy anything that we put into the store. No matter how minute the changes are to the previous model. You're just trying to fill the empty void in your sad life.
So he makes a point which a lot of people are making right now, which is, what? It's not Retina. It doesn't have a good camera. It's got it's an okay camera. It's the iPhone 4 camera, not the iPhone 4S camera. Mm-hmm. Or the iPad camera. It's you've got your iPad Touch. Your iPad Touch has Retina.
Well, there's a long list of things that Steve Jobs was wrong about, or at least was during in keynote fervor trying to overhype the current product about, and that was about the failure of a 7-inch tablet. At this point, all of us have a chance to use like 7-inch and 8-inch tablets, and there really is something more intimate about the way you operate with them. Well, I think one of the best features of the Kindle Fire HD is this really cool smart cover that they have, where you flip it open, you're holding something in your hand that really does feel like a book, and you snap the cover closed like a book, and you have all the extra screen real estate that makes reading stuff on a phone so impossible, but it's still small enough that you feel as though it's a personal item, which is something that a 10-inch tablet can never really deliver. So when you start to combine like the most accessible, simplest, cleanest multi-touch operating system on the planet, with a form factor that you won't be quite so scared about to use on a bus or on a subway. It's something you feel like you can stick in any pocket. You don't have to carry my own like little European man purse.
Your Dota bag
to carry a tablet around in. That is, I think that's it. It does seem like it's a simple thing to make, but I do think that it's going to be a transformative sort of device within the iPad.
Yeah, I think that I will more likely walk out the door with the iPad Mini than I will with the regular iPad.
Really?
Yeah, for me it's I think that for me a lot of times I walk out with my iPhone instead of my iPad because the iPad is bigger than I want it to be. And I have a Nexus 7 which I like a lot as far as the form factor goes.
Now, what's different about this is it's a 4x3. It's got a different shape. So
what's interesting for me is I made the realization that there's sort of two classes of people, and the different iPads will appeal to the different ones. For example, I almost always have a MacBook with me because I need it. There's certain things that I just can't do with iOS, like OpenVPN and other things. So having an iPad Mini will be lighter, and I can still use it as an LTE hotspot, and I can still use it to read. But if you really don't want to take a laptop with you, then you might like the full-size iPad with the keyboard, because then it becomes a laptop replacement.
I definitely think that. Go ahead.
I was going to say I have a Nexus 7, and I don't like it. I do not think it's a good tablet. To me, it's a large iPod Touch, and if I wanted a larger iPod Touch, I definitely get it. But I think Apple is absolutely correct when they made the pitch that running tablet-class software on the device makes a big difference. You can talk about the different screen size being a little bit of smoke and mirrors, but the ability to run multi-column iPad apps, to me, is a huge advantage over the Nexus 7. And the Kindle Fire, again, is a paperweight outside of America and most countries. So for me, the iPad Mini just becomes a no-brainer.
Well, see, it depends on that is an excellent point. That's something that I'm amazed that even after this much time, Google still doesn't have an answer to the question of where are the apps for Google tablets versus Google Android phones. But when you look at what people are buying a smaller tablet for, it's possible that really what they want is they want the Kindle app, and that's a full screen app that works just as well on the Nexus 7 really as it does actually as it does on the iPad. They want to use there are a whole class of apps that work just fine on a 7-inch full screen that aren't that much better when you put it into a multi-column or a more ambitious user interface. I think that when my review finally does appear, whenever it does appear, one of the questions that I really am going to be wrestling with is $130 more. The people who are the people who just don't want to spend more than $200 or $250 for a tablet because they're not interested in a post-PC device with sophisticated tablet software. They really do want something like a $130 Kindle that actually has a whole bunch of extra things it can do because it has a good processor and a color screen.
I do have to say that Kindle's on everything, right? This is the Windows Surface RT, and on a 16:9. It's a little weird to read in portrait mode on a Kindle. It's such a tall screen, and then of course in landscape mode, it's just wrong too. So
the iPhone 5 is like that a little bit because it's also 16.
Yeah, I don't like the iPhone 5 is a little weird that way too. Yeah. I guess we could get used to that.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't think this. This isn't Surface today, but I don't think the Surface was really designed to be held that way. It's just like when
it feels weird.
It feels weird. Just like when I said in part 1 of the review last week is that when you can hook up a keyboard to an iPad and it will do a really good job as a keyboarded computer, but every 3 minutes it seems to be telling you, wouldn't you rather be holding me in your hands? It would be great if you had it in your hands. I think the Surface is the exact opposite, where yes you hold it. You can hold it vertically, but saying, "Oh man, did you try flipping out my kickstand? Because when you put me on a table, oh boy, are you going to?"
Don't even use it in your lap. I mean, you really this is kind of has to be on a flat surface.
Again, I'm trying not to detour the whole thing into.
Well, it's germane only because there's a lot of this is what's interesting. There's a lot of choice now. Yeah, there's a lot of choice in the Apple realm and outside the Apple realm. There's Amazon, Android, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft all are making tablets, and there's a variety of shapes and factors and OSs. And
I think we really are moving truly into this post PC as all these companies start to pile on.
That's the lesson I got from this Surface, which is Microsoft realizes Windows 8 isn't really about a desktop computing system. This is really a tablet, and it's meant for touch.
Yeah.
And for what the average person, we want to look at what the average person does with their computer. When you ask people, what are you doing with your computer?
They're not
these tablets are plenty fast. Yep. They are plenty powerful. Yep. Now, have we figured out all the interface? Like, I don't know if I really want to open Numbers and try to build a document from scratch in Numbers. I have to do a lot of spreadsheets. And
my mom called me this morning and just said she got to watch The View in bed with her coffee on her iPad, and it was the best thing in the universe for her at that hour.
Well, and I work with I work with a lot of government officials from a variety of different countries, and the one thing that I'm noticing across all the countries is how many of them are running their business, like running their personal business, all on iPads. You know, these are guys that never really spent a lot of time on computers.
Well, and that's what I think what Microsoft's realizing, and they're saying this is the future, this post-PC era. Marco Arment has a hysterical article about his experience at a Microsoft store looking at the Windows RT launch, and he really does make the point. He says the store is creepy. So many elements are embarrassingly similar to the Apple Store. On the next floor, Microsoft even ripped off trivial elements that could easily have been different. Things like the blue T-shirts that employees wear. There's a huge elephant in the room. We can all see it, but Microsoft still implicitly denies it. Look at the wood floors. They have, instead of a Genius bar, they have, I can't remember what they call it, but it's a Genius bar.
It's kind of like they couldn't think of anything better.
A Wizard bar or something. It's a fun article to read. It's a little overly anti-negative.
It was heavy-handed, but you are left with this. Why can't you do something different?
Yeah.
Well, they can't do anything better at this point. I think they'd rather be hit for being a copy than being a failure. So they're doing the market leader exactly at this point.
I disagree with that. I think they do several things as well as Apple does them, and I think, but it's just as Apple doesn't do themselves any favors when they overpromise and overpraise their own products. Microsoft doesn't do them any favors when they copy the Apple Store so closely, and secondly when they leave off like that final little that just like a good contractor, the final walkthrough of the house before he turns over the keys, just looking for little nail heads that are sticking up, looking for spots of paint that got missed. It's that extra 1% that often turns around an experience. Microsoft can take a product to 99%, but they really aren't good at making that final step.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a fun article. It's shall we say it's slightly partisan.
Well, this is the new trend, by the way, and we often get slammed for not being partisan enough. That you notice your reluctance, Andy, to even talk about Surface on a MacBreak Weekly,
only because it's I know my own failings, that when I'm enthusiastic about something I tend to blabble about it long and also I'm deep in writing my next 1,000 words about it mode. So essentially all 3,000 words and 43 minutes of talking about it would come out into this microphone. I think it's a very, very solid product. I don't think that it deserves most of the slams that it's getting. I essentially think that the pull quote from the part one was really that between the iPad and Surface RT, it really is a yin and yang sort of thing. I don't think that one is conceptually better than the other, because there are things that the iPad is just not really very good at that the Surface is exceptional at. And then there are things like, again, anything that involves sitting comfortably in a sofa and holding the device in that sort of a familiar puppy dog sort of way. The Surface RT is like a cat. It does not want to be held. It'll bite back.
Yeah. It's pretty clear that each company, and I'll even include Amazon in this, has something to add to the conversation. The conversation might have been started by Apple, and Apple gets credit for that, although Microsoft's been pushing tablets since 2000. It's just they couldn't make a good one until Apple said, no, try this. And then they said, oh! But everybody's adding something to the conversation, and for customers, that is really good.
I'm really practically giddy about all the choice about this.
Exactly.
Android 10-inch tablets are absolutely boring because there is nothing that it's trying to do except for be something like the iPad, only not as good as the iPad and just as expensive as the iPad. It's wonderful when you see Amazon come out and say, well, what if we developed a tablet that was more designed towards reading and content consumption, where we're willing to make it not as good at everything else if we make it just the best thing possible for content consumption. And so you have that option. And then you have Surface RT, which is, well, what if you have people who like a tablet, but they still really, really want something that's more notebooky, that really is better at being handled with a keyboard and a mouse than the iPad is. Now people have that option. That's why it sort of disappoints and frustrates me when people try to make this out into a field of winners and losers. That thing is not as good as the iPad, and therefore it's a failure. Fail.
Well, and I think we're moving past.
Right. We have all the.
Go ahead, Renee.
We have all the shades of gray now. You can go from an iPod Touch to an iPad Mini to an iPad to a Surface to a MacBook Air or Ultrabook, and you really can pick exactly as much device as you need for the situation that you're in.
The question, of course, is when we get into a decision paralysis. You know what I mean? At some point, within the companies and also with all the other pieces of trying to figure out, which one you need. I know that for me, the hard part is you walk into a phone store and you if you weren't buying an iPhone from a Verizon store, there are so many phones. I don't even know how I could make that choice. I mean, I get I have a Galaxy and I have an iPhone and then and a Nexus, but I don't have but I'm not all the other ones. I don't even try.
There's a class of consumers that just wants to be told that's the one, get that.
Right.
But that's not anybody who watches any of our shows. I mean, I don't think.
Which is exactly what Tim Cook said about the Surface when he was on Apple's conference call last Thursday, that they didn't make any tough choices, that releasing products is about tough choices, and he found the Surface message confusing, and that Microsoft didn't decide we're going to make an RT version. They're doing the RT version and the Pro version. They're doing Metro and the desktop. They're doing the touch keyboard and the clickety-clack keyboard, which I think is a good example of the different cultures that still exist in both companies.
Yeah, and you could say the same thing for Android. Choice is preferred over a monolithic lead the way strategy, and that's what Apple's famous for, and Apple does a good job of that. And if you like the Apple way, then you're going to be very happy because Johnny Ive will lead you to the promised land or white heaven.
Well, I think we'll end up with I think that I think we're definitely moving quickly to where no one's a winner and a loser, but really everyone's got 20 or 30% of the market.
But there's also some overlap. For instance, Google just released today a new Google search for iOS that has Siri-like capabilities. And so Google now, it's an interesting thing that because Google has a foothold in iOS, rapidly diminishing foothold in iOS, but it can start doing things like you can say, what's the weather like in San Francisco in the Google search app on iPhone? And it will give you a Siri-like response. What's the tallest building in San Francisco? I mean, this is kind of interesting.
And it'll be interesting one thing that we have to do is to download it and do the same question with the exact same words and see what we get with each one, because I think it's going to be very interesting to see.
Herb Stempel versus that other guy, just put them both in isolation booths.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Again, another one I want to do. I want to
someday.
We got to do this fact-checking stuff.
3 kings that rode horses and had the letter H in their names. Name any 2 of those kings, the names of their horses, and the years of their reigns.
That'd be very interesting, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Let's take a break. Come back. Lots more to talk about. Andy Ihnatko is here from the Chicago Sun-Times at an undisclosed location, looking somewhat like Johnny Ive heaven.
We think this is the best podcast we've ever.
I want to do ads like Renee Ritchie from imore.com. You can finally take a break from the rumors for at least a month, and then it all starts.
No promises.
All over again. Oh God! And a great pleasure to have Alex Lindsay in studio, back from his travels, back from Rwanda.
Glad to be here.
We will talk more in just a little bit about all sorts of things. But first, a word from our friends at Ford Motor Company. They're having an event. I'm going to miss it because I'm in Australia next week. They're showing the new Ford Fusion Energies, the 2013 Energies, and the C-Max. Their latest electric cars in San Francisco. They'll be available soon. And one of the things I'm really pleased to see, Ford has announced that Ford will offer Ford Sync on every 2012-2013 Ford vehicle sold in the U.S., including the 2012 Focus, the 2013 Fusion, and in many cases, it'll be standard equipment. That's a good thing because Sync is good for a couple of reasons. One, it's safety. It's a way of interacting with your car without taking your hands off the wheel or your eyes off the road. You don't have to look down at a screen, the car, and you can have a conversation with Ford Sync. and it understands what you're saying. You could say things like, browse your. In fact, if you go to Ford.com/technology, they have a great. They just added this page on talking to Sync. Sync is like Siri for Fords. So let's go to the Sync page, and I'll show you. They have what can you say? What can you say to Sync? And it's so fun. All the different things you can say. Sync speaks your language.
That's a sharp-looking car.
Oh, that's my new car, by the way. Did I tell you that?
Did you get it?
Not yet, because it's not available. But I called Scott Monty and said, if there's any way you get me this before anybody else, I want the 2013 Fusion.
Looks gorgeous.
I'm gonna, it's a big deal for me to trade in my Mustang, my 2010 Mustang, which I love, which has Sync. And I love the V8 engine, but I think it's time to be a little more responsible.
This is more you.
It's more comfortable too. Yeah. Anyway, so here's the Sync speaks your language. Explore the commands, and your mind will be blown by all the. This is very much like that Google search or like Siri. You could say climate temperature 70 degrees. You could say I'm hungry, and if you say I'm hungry to Siri, it will Sync. I'm sorry, Sync. It will say. Here's the nearby restaurants. You can also say find a grocery store, find a pizza parlor, find a soul food restaurant. It understands that. Listen to a text message. It'll do that. If you're listening to a song on your MP3 player and you can say, what is this? And it will tell you.
Nice.
It will also, you could say play similar music and it will say, yeah, deal. And it will just create a playlist for you. You can ask it for a 5-day weather forecast. It's really cool. Play with this at Ford.com/technology. Of course, you can call people. It's Bluetooth dialing, but it also can speak to your entertainment devices, voice control music on a smartphone via Bluetooth streaming, a USB drive. You could take a thumb drive, put songs on it, plug it in. Every Ford Sync vehicle has at least one USB port. You plug it in, and you can play it. It indexes it, and you can play it by name. Of course, your iPad, your iPod, the iPhone 5 works great with Sync. I can vouch for that. I have a lightning cable. Just plug it in the USB port. It indexes everything. And there's iTunes tagging. If you're listening to a song on the HD radio, you could say, hey, save this, and when you get home, buy it on iTunes. Just really neat stuff.
I rented a Ford. I don't know what state or city, but I was thinking about how hard is it going to be to sync up my iPhone, and then when the phone rang, it rang in the car. Like, well, I guess it's evidently not that hard.
That happened. You didn't ever tie it together?
I didn't do any work tying it together.
That's pretty cool.
I was like, well, I guess
that's pretty cool. Browse all audiobooks. You could say FM 94.7 and it tunes to that. The whole point is not to, this is the most dangerous. It happens all the time up here. People in cars, not Ford cars, are looking down at their radio, fiddling with it instead of paying attention, and they run into something. Play podcast episode 3. I would say replace that command with play MacBreak Weekly.
Of course.
Episode whatever. Just really cool stuff. I want you to try it. We tested this. I've been asking people to do this, and I wonder, I have to call my local Ford dealer and see if anybody's doing this. I say, go to a Ford dealer and say, I want to test drive the Ford Sync and see what they say. They'll say, well, you have to take a car too. Well, any car. I just want to test drive the Ford Sync. Bring your smartphone or your MP3 player, music player too, so you could bond it and see how it goes. It really is awesome. I will not. I'm so spoiled by Sync. I will not buy a car without Sync, and I am actually really excited about this new 2013. It's a plug-in hybrid, so I'm going to love that. Now that I have a house, I can put the charging station. It uses 120, but it's really fast with a 240. So you plug it in. If you're, I think within 30 miles, it's all electric. Right. Unless you get on the highway and you want to go 80 miles an hour. It only goes 85, something like that in electric. So you're going really fast, the gas engine kicks in. Or if you go into the airport, the gas engine kicks in. And that way
Which is good, because that's actually, I was looking at a Leaf, but I was looking at how far can I get with the Leaf before I have to recharge.
So this is not a hybrid. It's not always hybrid. It's electric within the short range. And then, so you may never buy gas if you just drive around town all day. I'm so excited about it.
I just saw Ford and David Pogue, two of my favorite one of my favorite people and one of my favorite companies. But on TV last night, they were talking about how Ford is spending a lot of David Pogue. He has his PBS show.
Yeah, Nova.
And, is it PBS?
Yeah. Not Nova. It's a science thing.
But it was about how Ford is moving a lot of their plastics to biodegradable.
It's amazing.
Surfaces. Yeah,
they're growing stuff on the roof that they can make seats.
They're making seats out of soybeans.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say. What do you think is cool?
Yeah, it's very cool. Thank you, Ford, for your support. So we got Ford American Express. I think we're on the right track here.
Yes.
All we need to do is hire Katie Couric, and this is a major television network. No, you don't have to worry.
Please don't, because I'm not pretty enough to be a regular host on a TV network.
We have been hiring pretty people lately, though, but that's just because by chance.
I'm glad that I'm being grandfathered in for the new TWiT.
You beat me to it. I was like, thank you. It's good we got in early.
You're grandfathered in. The ugly people are grandfathered in.
I can go order some FUBU if that'll help to use me up for the demographic.
You need to get hip. If you could wear that baseball cap backwards, I'd appreciate that.
Oh no! As you all know, if you want to attract the youth culture, you must adjust the brim of your bowl cap thusly.
Yes.
There you go.
The iPad Mini on a chain, Andy.
MTV.
My son gets mad at me because apparently there's a way to curve the bill, and I don't, or uncurve. I don't know. I'm not.
Oh, it's all about the flat bill now, right?
Flat. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I curve it, and he says, "No, you just ruined the hat." I said, "What?"
Yeah, that flat bill. I'm sorry. I'm too old for that.
It's so weird.
The first thing you do is
it's too weird. So, have you downloaded Letterpress yet and played it?
No.
It's so fun. Andy, you've been playing it?
I've been playing it. I just don't like the idea that I have to play against humans.
So this is the Lauren Brichter's new game. Remember last week he hadn't shipped it yet. He was going to come out the next day. Lauren Brichter is the guy who did Tweety and sold it to Twitter. Twitter immediately eviscerated it. Poor Lauren. But he made a lot of money, I guess. Anyway,
so he had some time on his hands.
He had some time, and he's been writing an iOS game. Works great on the iPad and the iPhone, called Letterpress. And it's a very challenging, fun, head-to-head kind of Scrabble crossword-like game. But apparently brought Game Center down. The day it came out, Game Center just stopped functioning because it uses Game Center to tie people together. That was his big mistake.
He used it for everything. He trusted Game Center to do every bit of heavy lifting in his app. And it turns out that Game Center is something that Apple doesn't dog food. They don't have a single app in iOS that uses Game Center. So they have no vested interest. They have no skin in that API game. And I think this was a perfect example about exposing the weaknesses and the things that Apple doesn't get or doesn't do well.
They don't seem to get cloud.
Yeah. Cloud and gaming. And these are the confluence of both those things.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been mostly up since, but I tried again and it was down again like over the weekend. So it's a good game, and apparently it broke Game Center. iCloud, nevertheless, now has 190 million users, up from 150 million last quarter, and steady growth. This is during the Q4. We didn't talk about the earnings call yet. We can go through that. But one of the things Apple announced on its earnings call on Thursday was that 190 million people, 40 more million people are using iCloud because it's just kind of built. You can't even not.
Yeah, it's like if you have a device, you kind of immediately start using it. But I guess you could say the same thing about like G Plus or anything else where you just kind of you have a lot of people that are just part of it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the earnings call. There was a lot of headlines. Both CFO Peter Oppenheimer and Tim Cook took a moment to defend iPad's pricing in the face of lower priced competition. They don't think it's too high. When we set out to build the iPad Mini, said Oppenheimer, we didn't set out to build a small, cheap tablet. We were trying to give you a high-quality experience.
Well, our opinion at Apple is that the 47% can go screw themselves.
Apple will not make a product someone may feel good about the moment they're paying for it.
Could you imagine those rough workman-like hands touching a laminated screen?
Is not what we're going to make. No, this is a good point from Tim Cook. He said, we don't want to make you feel good when you pay for it and then feel lousy when you get it home. Right? That's actually a very good point. I was making this point on Wednesday about the new Chromebooks from Google. Yeah, they're cheap. But when you get them home, are you going to use them? They're so limited.
Yeah.
Well, when you're at home, they actually aren't limited. It's when you go somewhere that they're limited.
Okay,
when you're I think that was part of the point was that you'd have extra laptops or extra pieces, and when you're at the house, it's great.
The flip side of that is that I do wish that Apple were extended its mandate for improving the world towards the direction of making a technology affordable for a wider range of people. One way of describing a $199 tablet is to say that's cheaply made and it's not as good as the iPad. Another way of describing it is that there are a lot of people for whom that extra $130 is a really big deal. It just widens the pool. I don't fault them for not going there, but I just think that there are two sides to everything.
We heard originally that there was going to be that $200, $250 model that was going to be an 8 gigabyte, and that SKU just dropped off. Apple basically wiped out all the 8 gigabyte devices across their line. I don't know whether that's because OSs are getting bigger, or the feeling was that if you have any amount of content at all, people will regret just getting 8 gigabytes because it was cheaper. But that's why I think we had that Nexus comparison, the Nexus 7 comparison on screen, was Phil Schiller making the case for why they believed they deserved a higher price than the incredibly cheaply priced, especially now with the 32 gigabyte model Nexus 7.
Mm. Apple made revenue of $36 billion in fiscal Q4, profit $8.2 billion, earnings of $8.67 a share. All of this disappointed the stock market.
iPad sales were not high enough. They did not sell enough billions of iPads specifically.
And Apple gave an advisement that their margins would go down, and as a result, earnings would go down next quarter.
I'm glad that the analysts are finally holding Apple's feet to the fire. Do you realize that this is the 5th quarter in a row that people have bought more eggs than iPads? That's not acceptable.
Not okay.
It is not an excuse that eggs are only $3.29 and an iPad is $329. They still should be selling the same number.
So, but if you look,
though, that
go ahead.
That next quarter is going to be a week shorter this year than it was last year, and they made a lot of money in that extra week last year.
Q1 is usually a big quarter for Apple. If you look at the graph, this is Apple's graph on performance. On the left, revenue, which has kind of been going down, and profit on the right, which is clearly going down all 4 quarters. Although quarter to quarter, they're up $6.6 billion in Q4 11. 8.2 billion Q4 12, and you have to look quarter to quarter. You can't look over the year. They had an amazing first quarter this year. So you think, Renee, that their advisement is don't expect the same kind of first quarter next year?
I mean, they always say that. They always try to drive expectations down as low as possible. It's like Scotty on the Enterprise. That's a reputation as a miracle worker.
Yeah.
But they want to blow past expectations. But they were careful to say that, again, that 1 week is going to be missing. And also, I think the iPad Mini is, if you look at the iPod line, is going down. The iPod Touch is still roughly 50% of the iPod line, but it's 50% of less and less every quarter. And the iPad Mini, I think, is supposed to sort of take that place in a growing sector, and the iPad is continuing its nice little hockey stick climb up the charts.
Yeah, iPhone sales up 58% thanks to the iPhone 5. They sold 26.9 million iPhones, 14 million iPads, 4.9 million Macs, and 5.3 million iPods. They still sold more iPods, despite dropping iPod sales. Still sold more iPods than Macs. But that's a solid quarter in terms of sales. Again,
Amazon had a loss, so I mean it's all comparative what you look at.
Right. Again, if you look at,
I did think it was interesting. They pointed out that that Amazon, that Apple now has more cash in the bank than Amazon's market cap.
Amazon has Apple
has more cash.
They could buy Amazon, in other words,
in cash.
With cash.
Cash.
But again, the hardware sales fell short of the analyst expectations. So the analysts get pissed. Like, you proved us wrong. Actually, it was interesting because almost all the analysts said this is a buying opportunity. They said, no, this is good. Apple's going to do fine. Buy. This is not the time to dump Apple. By any means.
Well, one of the things I think was interesting in some of the articles we were reading as we were prepping, I thought that one of the ones that was interesting is looking at the cash on hand versus their market cap. I think that there was a comparison.
$121 billion in cash.
That's
after they give the dividend away.
After. It's a good thing they gave that away. And by the way, worldwide, too, strong. They could buy the space station. By the way, it's the other comparison.
They're building their own space station. It's called the new Apple campus.
Yeah. There
it is. There's the graph that I thought was interesting.
So its cash represents more than 20% of its market cap, yet the ratio of cash to market cap is going down.
And it's been going down consistently since pretty much the mid-2000s.
Is that meaningful?
Well, I think it's interesting that it just shows how stable they are compared to their market cap. But I also think that it does, when you talk about using the money, I think most analysts think that it gets risky if that ratio gets too low.
You don't want to have too little cash on hand,
or you don't, and sometimes you don't want to have too much cash on hand.
Yeah, too much means
in comparison to your market cap, because then you become. I mean, I don't know how someone normally you would say that they become an acquisition target because of the cash that they have on hand, but with Apple, I don't know who would, be able to do that.
But you're right. They've always played this game where they sandbag, basically, the analysts. They say, no, It's not. Q1's going to be terrible.
To save our money for buying Color Labs again, whatever the next one.
Yeah, Color Labs. This is interesting. Thank you. Somebody in the chat room gave me a link to estimize.com. You can create an estimate consensus, Wall Street consensus, and actual over a period of time. And there was a real disequilibrium in that first quarter where the analysts really didn't expect such a massive first quarter. And, of course, that helps the stock price quite a bit when they outperform. But I think what you'd like to do is be close. What?
I'm sorry. Okay, well, this is a rat hole and a distraction. I
love that. Go ahead. Go for it.
Sometimes people have, as you keep an eye on the chat room for people who are commenting on the show. I keep an eye on Twitter. Someone sent me a link to a article on the Hollywood Reporter that Disney is buying Lucasfilm for $4.05 billion, and there will be a new Star Wars movie released in 2015.
Well, so it's been raging on the IRC, and then I tweeted it trying to figure out if there was any kind of confirmation. And I think right as my tweet went out, CNBC put something up.
So that's a big story.
Sorry, that was definitely an outburst, sort of holy mother of God.
So Disney, which is of course this Steve Jobs' estate, is a major stockholder, number one stockholder, I think, in Disney.
Yes.
Buying Lucasfilm for a mere $4 billion. Apple could have picked up that, wouldn't even have felt it.
And when you really think about it, how cool would it have been for Apple to buy Lucasfilm for?
Yeah.
Thinks all Star Wars would have been on the iTunes for free.
That's what they should have done for nothing. Bob Iger, chairman and CEO of Walt Disney, says Lucasfilm reflects the extraordinary passion, vision, and storytelling of its founder, George Lucas. This transaction combines a world-class portfolio of content. Underscore that.
I think the portfolio is,
that's what they're buying.
Yeah,
including
and all the rights
Wars.
to all of those names and all those pieces and all the. I mean, there's a treasure trove of things that can be done with that.
George Lucas says it's now time for me to pass Star Wars on to a new generation of filmmakers. I've always believed that Star Wars could live beyond me, and I thought it was important to set up the transition during my lifetime.
You won't have George Lucas to kick around anymore.
Now, Kathleen Kennedy, who is a longtime executive producer for both Spielberg and George Lucas, is moving along with this. So she's going to be leading the Lucasfilm division. That's very interesting.
It's like Marvel and Star Wars all together now. Disney owns every character from my childhood.
Well, the good news is that copyright will now never lapse.
Right. It is now. They are now owned by the mouse.
The mouse.
Just think of Mickey Mouse.
Darth Vader movie.
Mickey Mouse and Jar Jar in the same movie. Just consider, ponder.
With Spider-Man.
Ponder that.
Yes. That's kind of inevitable, isn't it?
Do I want to try to wangle my invitation to the Skywalker Ranch before the Flying Teacups ride gets installed or after?
Oh, hey, wouldn't it be nice if there's a new Disneyland right up here in Northern California?
Oh.
Lucasland.
Maybe they'll finally update Star Tours.
I mean, you could now, you really could. You could have Luke Skywalker could join the Avengers.
Yes.
There you go.
You could have Chewie. Chewie could be there, so you could have the Hulk, and then Chewie be over there going, doing all that stuff,
Chewie smash.
I'm surprised that wasn't in the press release. Star Tours will now be updated. I really thought that should have probably.
Jar Jar.
Interesting. I thought it was very interesting what Tim Cook said about the Microsoft Surface. He said, as you had already pointed out, Andy, that it was confusing because Microsoft didn't make any of the tough choices. He also compared it to a car that flies and floats. Like, why would you want that? Excuse me, but I will take that car if you don't want it, Tim.
Right.
I don't care if it's not the perfect car, but if it flies, floats, and drives?
Hey, I say go for it.
I don't think that's really a good metaphor.
I think that would be awesome.
I've been using it at least 3 or 4 hours a day for nearly a week now, and it's not a refrigerator toaster.
No,
it's a cool thing.
It's a cool. I agree with you, Andy. My review of the Surface RT is coming up actually on Before You Buy, and as I said before the show begins, I'm still in a quandary because there's things I love about it that really, and it is impressive. I tweeted, "Hey, Microsoft innovating. Who'd have thunk?"
Right. They're famous for Gen 1. I mean, they'll nail its Surface Gen 2 or Gen 3.
Yeah, there's little things. Like the touch targets are pretty small. So, I mean, I have a hard time typing on an iPhone, though, so maybe I'm not the guy. Apple Store now has good news. Lightning to HDMI and VGA adapters for a mere $49.
Holy smokes.
Oh, wait, no.
But worth every penny. So what's the little line right here next to the VGA?
That's
oh, is that the lightning out? So you can do lightning pass through?
That's where the electrons come out. Oh, it's lightning pass through. You're right.
Is that what it is?
Looks like
the old one. It's just instead of the dock, it's got the lightning, so you still have the pass through.
Right.
So you could charge it and watch something on your TV or whatever it is you're using it for. There's also a $19, which is a nice price, 12-watt power adapter for the lightning port.
Solves the because it took so long to charge the iPad 3. It was an overnight charging deal.
Yeah, 12 watts makes it's 20% faster.
Yep. And it'll all those large. I don't even use the small adapters that come with the iPhone anymore. I just plug them all into.
Yeah, because you can use your iPhone on it or whatever.
Everything. I mean, everything I charge. I just have all I have is
those
big wall warts, and the little ones are just.
That's been my advice for a while: is to check the wattage of your wall wart because they vary widely. You know, everything's 5 volts. But it's the amperage you want to look at. Some are 0.5 amps or less. And so the old iPad one was 5 times 2 amps.
Right.
And I guess now it's more.
Right. So anyway,
and that does make a big difference. I think.
I mean, an iPhone in a 10 watt will charge in like 40 minutes.
Right.
You know, it's just like it's fully charged.
The more watts, the better.
More amps.
Throw watts at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what you want.
Baby, I got it.
What you want? All right, we got the ad campaign. So, according to Quartz, which I love, by the way, it's the new freebie business journal, HTML5 business journal, by the guy who bought the Atlantic. Women are the target of Apple's iPad Mini advertising strategy. Is that right? 3 people who sell advertising for media companies say that Apple is primarily buying space for mini ads in publications or TV shows that cater to women. Let's watch the actual Apple ad and see. Is there a gender-specific tie? So they're playing Heart and Soul on an iPad and an iPad Mini. It's a woman's fingers compared to a man's fingers, yes? So maybe that's
for the Mini. You want a smaller finger to make it look more expensive, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you can't really tell the gender of the finger.
It harkens back to the Tom Hanks movie Big, which, as we know, all women have a soft spot for.
That's it. It reminds you of Big. Heart and Soul. It's the size. It fits in your handbag. If you have smaller fingers, maybe it works better. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Lighter. It fits in your jacket pocket. It's more portable.
The Mini. Chicks dig it. Sold out, too. Black and white. Too late.
Evidently, no one liked it.
You know, that's meaningless, though. The Surface sold out as well, and it's meaningless because
you don't know how many.
You don't know how many. Maybe they had 50 of them. We don't know.
Yeah.
50 iPads. Get them fast.
Okay.
I knew they shouldn't have had it made in America.
Phil Schiller says customers are not asking for built-in Blu-ray players, so don't ask.
I don't want any more Blu-ray. I felt bad. I was working with someone who actually makes Blu-rays, and I was like, I'm kind of post-plastic. I mean, the idea of like buying something now, when I buy it, I want it available on every device. Yeah. You know, it was like
I walk across the living room and stick a disc in something, then walk back to the sofa.
And your kids put the quarters in the Blu-ray disc, and you know, it just takes all.
Did anybody notice this? The Beatles Apple Core logo, now a registered trademark of Apple.
Talk about skeuomorphism. That thing looks exactly like an apple.
They finally, so they've been going back and forth over this for decades. The Beatles suing Apple over the Apple trademark. Apple said, well, we'll never do music. And then a few years later, oops, I guess, well, maybe we'll do some music. They settled in 2007, and all the trademarks related to Apple would be owned by Apple, which would then license them back to the Beatles Apple Core for continued use. And so now Apple owns, in Canada too, Apple owns the Apple Core logo.
Well, I guess they won't be having that argument anymore.
It's kind of sad.
Disney owns Star Wars. Apple owns the Beatles.
Yeah.
Up is down, black and white. Dogs and cats living together.
We're living in the Fringe universe, Andy.
And Paul McCartney issuing a public statement that Yoko Ono had nothing to do with the breakup of the Beatles. I just don't even know this planet anymore.
And Scott Forstall's not at Apple anymore.
No.
I just want to point out that Apple could buy Disney with cash.
What's Disney's market cap?
Disney's market cap is $89.86 billion. Apple could just...
They'd have plenty. They have $30 billion left over.
Let me write you a check here. How much do you want? How much do you want?
Would it be shorter to come up with a list of things that Apple could not buy with cash? They can buy
I'm not for sale.
The soul of a newborn child with the amount of cash they have on hand.
How much for the kid?
Your baby soul, sell them to me.
Tell me.
Your wife, your son, sell me your children, your family.
A Google employee leaves the new Nexus 4 phone in a bar in San Francisco.
What is it about San Francisco bars?
They're copying everything.
I know.
That's just copying.
The same launch strategy.
That's just buzz marketing.
Have you seen Steve Jobs' yacht? So we learned about his yacht in the Walter Isaacson biography. Steve said, I'm not going to stop designing this. I know I may die before it's done, but if I stop working on it, it'll be an admission that I'm going to die. It was built. It's christened Venus.
It's pretty awesome.
Really?
I think it's awesome.
It's like a floating Apple store. It's It's the lightest, thinnest aluminum yacht shell ever.
And they had the Apple Store guys design the glass so it's structural because, as you know, when you get into a perfect storm, you want 10-foot tall sheets of glass around the bridge house.
It's got 7 of what look like brand new iMacs on the deck.
Yeah,
did you see that? That is
not the new ones.
They steer it with. Oh, they don't have the thin ones.
You got the old-fashioned.
Oh,
ones.
bring it back!
It's disgusting. You may as well just set fire to it.
And by the way, did Johnny Ive design the seat? Because I'm not sitting on that.
I think it's a handhold.
Too,
not comfortably. You stand there and shake like Star Trek.
The hell?
You're not supposed to sit down. You're supposed to stand and work.
What the hell kind of chair is that?
That's just to lean when you're tired. Maybe it's not done yet.
See, what I like most about Steve Jobs is that he never stopped being that lovable hippie that just wants to go to an ashram and.
And here's the
shot of $800 million yacht.
You're sitting wrong. Here's the butt of the boat, which is remarkably ugly. I think. You like that?
I like it.
All right. See, I know.
Weren't you surprised by all of the hard angles and right corners there?
Just
it looks like it was made out of Lego. Like I would buy that make that out of Lego.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I wonder if Laureen and the kids will keep it or if they'll sell it. I'd sure like to keep it. Sail around in that. Huh?
They were there that weekend.
They were when it launched. Yeah. Oh. It's his like many things, it's his legacy. And this is the they got Philippe Starck to do the interior.
And boy, was his design aesthetic consistent across every single product.
Yeah, it's very Starky. Stark's the word. Pentagon's buying iPhones.
And Android. But what I think the important part is they're not buying Blackberries.
I
think they've decided they would not. They don't want to be the last one out. I think that's the key to the operation here.
Will Apple do an online radio service to challenge Pandora in 2013? Bloomberg says so. Is that credible? We keep hearing that rumor.
Maybe Alex can speak to the licensing issues better than I can, but they've been trying for years. And when you interview any Slacker or Pandora type, they tell you international licensing is an absolute nightmare. And when you look at how far Apple and Google and Microsoft, some of the biggest, strongest, toughest companies in the world, have gotten when it comes to licensing content, it looks like an unimaginable nightmare.
Well, I think the other issue is the music industry is very afraid of letting Apple any further into the industry than it already is. And so I think that there's this, they want to keep on making more money. They want to do all those things, but they want because if Apple was able to get not so much a Pandora is fine, But if they got a Spotify-like service, I think that would be the end.
That's what's missing. I think there's no subscription service. That's what's missing.
I mean, in what I really think, like, I really think a service, if Apple was able to have a Spotify-like subscription service and then allow you to buy up and buy all the other things that you might want or the things that aren't available to add to that service, I think it would be kind of the perfect mix of the two. Because I know that with Spotify, for whatever reason, my credit card number changed, and then it cleared my entire, it cleared my whole Spotify because I changed my credit card number.
Oh,
I didn't notice it, and suddenly I wasn't there, and it said, it ran over the subscription.
Your cache.
And so
it's just a cache. It's not. You don't own that stuff.
Well, but I had. It was 450 songs that suddenly disappeared, and it has taken me 3 weeks to resync because it keeps on stopping because it says you're not using it. I'm like, the reason I'm not using it is because I'm waiting for it to finish. And
I think the new thing here was that Apple might be agreeing to do ad revenue sharing, which none of the other companies have done so far.
Pandora, as Tim Westergan at Pandora points out, 55% of their revenue goes back to the artists. I mean, they pay big checks to the artists.
Well, and Pandora, by the way, I don't think has any agreements. So what they're doing is in the United States, at least, they're
Sound Exchange, which is
they're
third
using
party.
Right, but they're using the rules that already exist as to, because they're not that's why you can't control every track, and, and so, which is why I have to admit that I don't use it. I just want Spotify. I just download my stuff.
I like it. There's times when I want a radio station when I just say some of this. You know what else is good is Songza.
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 I think you need to say it's Songza.
Instead of saying an artist, you say a style.
Right.
Style.
And Pandora,
I think I'm getting too old.
I think.
Say again, Renee?
Pandora just updated their app yesterday. They announced a new app, and I think for Windows, they announced Windows support, and then at the same time, they updated their iOS app.
You're going to get with, I shouldn't say this, please don't hate me, Windows Phone 8, you will get a year's free Pandora subscription.
If you live in the U.S.
Well, what do you want? You're in Canada.
I would like some Pandoras, Leo. Can you send me a box of Pandoras, please?
No, but Songza does work in Canada, so there.
Yeah, and so does Slacker.
Did you just call us a slacker?
No, the Slacker music.
Oh, the Slacker music.
As accurate as the Slacker label might be for all of us, the Slacker music service also.
I think it's so appropriate that a music service is called Slacker. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was interesting. Microsoft being very aggressive with Windows Phone 8, and that is a pretty strong selling point.
I think they have to. I think they got to play hard. I mean, I think Microsoft, while they're really big and they still have some cash momentum, they are slipping quickly. I mean, they have to turn this over. So I think this is an all or nothing kind of deal when they move over this.
Our picks coming up in just a second, but first, a banned iPad Mini promo. This is running up the charts on YouTube. John Alaric and his team do banned. They did the banned iPhone. Here's the banned iPad Mini promo. This just shows you what people are thinking, maybe.
iPad was designed to be very powerful and very capable. So our goal was to take all of the amazing things about the full-size iPad and pack them into a product that is so much smaller. But not as small as the iPod Touch. And that's exactly what the iPad Mini is. Wait, the iPad Mini is not the iPod Touch. I don't want that to sound confusing. They have the same processor. They are different. The iPod Touch has a Retina display.
iPad Mini is the thinnest iPad we've ever designed. Surprise, surprise. It's 0.4 millimeters thinner than the iPhone 5, which was just released a month ago. So as usual, each product is thinner than the last. It's always going to be thinner, except with the third generation iPad, which is now the old, new iPad, and not the Retina display iPad. Not to be confused with the iPad Mini, which does not have a Retina display, but is thinner.
In iPad Mini, we also redesigned iSight with new HD cameras that allow you to take amazing photos in HD video. It doesn't have an 8-megapixel camera like the iPhone 5 or the 4S, but neither does the iPad 4, which at this point, I'll take whatever I can get.
Amazing. The biggest challenge we faced was incorporating all of the great features from the iPad, minus the Retina display, into a much smaller design. iPad Mini has the largest and thinnest single-cell battery we've ever designed, and a smaller motherboard to house the powerful 2-year-old A5 chip. Plus, it has the new Lightning connector, which is also pretty neat.
If all we had done was take the original iPad and reduce it, all you would be aware of is what was missing. Like 2 cameras. Man, that still gets to me.
iPad Mini is the lightest iPad we've ever designed. It's also the most affordable. So there's that too.
With all of the many advances, you probably expect to pay more than double the price of the full-size iPad. But this amazing device is $170 cheaper on every level. Yes, you heard correct. You get more for less, minus the Retina display and faster processor.
All of these efforts combined create a product with an exceptional level of fit and finish. And the result is an extraordinary iPad. One that'll be used until a faster processor is developed, as well as the technology to put a Retina display in such a tiny device and a higher megapixel camera. But who knows when that'll be? That's at least 7 months into the future. iPad mini is the future. It's the future until May, at least. Probably more like the end of May. Or more than likely June. iPad mini is now the future until then.
Thanks again for watching, guys.
I think that's pretty fun. That's John Alaric, and he does a whole bunch of censored ads, banned iPad mini promo on YouTube if you want to watch the rest of it. We're going to take a break, come back with your picks of the week, your tips too. Renee Ritchie is here for iMore.com, Andy Yanako from the Chicago Sun-Times, Alex Lindsay. Where is iTunes 11, by the way? We have one more day, right? Anybody checking?
This will be the trick.
This is going to be the pick? All right, let's not say
trick
anything.
or treat. That's going to be the trick.
Yeah. Oh, the trick, not the pick. All right.
I got a candy bar. I got a candied apple. I got a slip ship date.
We're on a schedule.
Come on, Charlie Brown. Happy Halloween, Charlie Brown reference.
Oh
This is
yeah.
not a hip- this
No,
is not a hip
I
hop.
got it.
That's fine. It's fine.
I got a slip schedule. Let's take a break. I got a rock. That's it, right? I got a rock. If you are interested in, I probably shouldn't do this ad right after that, but if you are ready to get the new iPad mini, maybe you want to get a lot of people have an iPad 3rd generation and saying, I want that faster processor. What's the best way to get some money for the old and bring in the new? Gazelle.com. They buy iPhones, iPads, iPods, Macintosh computers, and screens. They'll even buy your old BlackBerry, HTC, LG, Motorola, Nokia, or Samsung phone, so that you can trade up to the newest stuff. Let's say I really do want to get the new 4th generation just because it's faster. So I've got an iPad 3rd generation, 64 gig LTE. Well, whatever, $500.
That's great.
Yeah.
You got to do it quickly, though, because it's only going to be that way for the next day.
Oh, here's the beauty. This is good for 30 days. So do it now, and then when you get the new iPad and you transfer everything over, then you put it in the box. They pay shipping on anything worth more than $1.
Apple should buy Gazelle. No, I'm just saying, because this is the thing. You buy something every year, and you got it, and then this just gives you that discount that you need to keep on buying.
That's actually, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Because
it's recycling the easy way. Somebody wants that iPad 3rd generation. And Gazelle, well, their data experts will wipe the data for you. You don't even have to think about that. They pay the shipping for you. And they then send you a check. You can get a PayPal credit or an Amazon gift card, and they bump the Amazon gift card by 5%. I think they're giving you back, I would guess they're giving you back the affiliate fee. But that's great. So try it. There's no obligation. It's good for 30 days. Just see what your stuff is worth. Go to that drawer. You know that messy drawer with the old phones and iPads and stuff in there? Just go to that. I know you got one. Just go to that drawer. Take out everything. Go to Gazelle. You may be amazed at how much you can get from Gazelle. And then just throw it in a box. They pay the shipping, and boom, there you go. Gazelle, Gazelle.com. The best way to trade in that old gadget so you can get the new one. They send you a box, that they ship. It's nice. Then all the instructions. They really do a nice job. A high quality company. In fact, I think they've paid almost $50 million now to over 400,000 customers over the last couple of years. Gazelle.com. Disney's going to have an investor call in 5 minutes. We might go to that briefly just to listen in if we can, after we finish up MacBreak Weeklies. Let's finish it up, in fact, starting with your picks of the week. Andy Yanako, what do you got? Uh-oh, he's silent. Did you sit on something?
I've got an obvious pick in my circumstance, the Rayovac LED Sportsman lantern, which I bought. I bought one of these last year for Irene. As soon as it arrived, I bought a couple more because they're so good. And of course, I've been using them for the past 28 hours since I lost power again. These are, if you have not replaced like your emergency lanterns, like since you left, since you were a teenager, definitely you want to see these really wonderful high illumination white LED lanterns. They cost about $25. They run on 3 D-sized batteries. They will light up an entire room, and the battery will last. It has 2 brightness modes. If you have it on the dim setting, it's still plenty to like let you get around the house by, and the batteries will last 90 hours. Wow. 90 hours. And if you want something really, really bright, like bright enough to read or cook by, that's only 40 hours of battery life. As a matter of fact, after last year's storm, I forgot the power back. I pretty much put them away and didn't replace the batteries, didn't do anything, took them out like yesterday, and they're still good to go. So I have other batteries. Like in storage, but like I haven't had to switch them out because these are just so handy. They're also really so well designed where they got flip up handles. You can hang them off of anything. They're just really, really great. They're small, compact. Can't say enough about them.
You're channeling the Gizwiz right now. By the way, we will have a Gizwiz show this afternoon. The power is on at Disneyland, so we will do that show in just a few minutes. That's good news. All right, thank you, Andy. Mr. Rene Ritchie, your pick of the week.
I have to go with letterpress, Leo. I've been waiting to pick this every week.
Yeah. You knew about it.
I was an early beta tester for it, so I've had a lot of time to play it against a lot of people and really try it out. He's tweaked the rules, and it keeps getting better and better. The release version is fantastic. I love the animations that he puts in for the little letters. Lorne Brichter was originally at Apple, and then he made TWiT, and he's like this warrior priest of designer, coder, who comes up with all these great interfaces and great ideas. And I had a chance to talk to him about this app, and he and his wife were just playing, I think it was called Spell Tower, at the restaurant, and he was upset they couldn't play competitively. So as you or I might, cook something on a hot plate, he decided to make this entirely new app just at the beginning to play with his wife, and kept building it. And now I think it's safe to say it's a smash hit. I don't know anyone in our tech circles who isn't playing it. People are checking it before they check Twitter in the morning now. It's crashing Game Center. It's just remarkable. He did an excellent job. It's a very fun game.
Yeah, and it builds your brain. It's not some dumb thing. Highly recommend, and it's free.
Yes.
But is he going to do in-app purchases?
There is one. So if you do the in-app purchase now, it opens up the word list. You get the complete list of words in the game. You get the ability to play multiple games at once, and you also get a variety of different themes. So you can play WordPress in pink and black if you so desire.
I knew that. I bought it because I just wanted to support him. It's $2, $3. What was it? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's $1.99.
99 cents.
Yeah, 99 cents. Yeah,
it's worth it. Yeah, but it's free. So you don't have to do the in-app purchase, and you get most of the functionality. A lot of it. I mean, it's certainly playable.
The biggest functionality is if you're a pro player, it opens up the ability to play like more than 5 people at once or something.
That's what it was.
It's a certain number.
I don't want to play more than 5 people at once.
And the people who are getting really good at it now, there's a new term called smurfing, where they try to get every color letter on the board to turn their color.
Wow.
And that's the ultimate in victory. That's the Mortal Kombat fatality of.
I need to do, and maybe Chad, you can help me. I need some instruction on the strategy of this, so that I'm just
a little more complicated than you'd think.
I'm just spelling words. I know that I'm doing it. There's got to be more to it.
Yeah. He made a change before he released the game. Originally, you just picked letters, but some of the games would go on and on. So now he added the ability to protect letters. So if you can surround a letter in your color, the opponent can still play it, but they can't change the color of the letter. So it's got almost like a little tower defense sort of strategy built into it, where that's how you can slowly start eating the board away from your opponent.
Alex Lindsay, 1 minute to the Disney investor call. I'm sure you're fascinated as a former Lucasfilm employee.
Yes. Yes. So Spec has finally released their covers for.
Where's mine? I ordered it.
I don't know. Because we ordered all of them.
You took them all.
We literally cleared Amazon out.
Mine should. Did yours come recently?
Yeah, we got I don't know.
Okay, so I should get one because I ordered that. I was wondering where it was. Good.
Yeah, there was an excitement.
We use these Spec cases. We love them.
Yeah.
But they didn't have it for the Retina for a long time.
So they're out. That's my pick because we put these on like every computer that we have.
They're thin plastic shells that don't make the computer bigger, but definitely protect it.
Yeah, and mine already started getting beat up because it's been getting so much work. So anyway, and I have to say, I was really preparing for an iOS tip. I'm just going to give you really quickly because someone gave such a great.
Oh, good. Yes.
This is Siri. So there's one thing that really drives me crazy about Siri, and that is that you can't. that it comes on really loud no matter what. Like you accidentally hold the button down while you're recording an event and suddenly goes, bleep, you know, does the little Siri thing.
Yeah.
So if you hold the Siri down and once Siri's opened, if you can now change the ringer. If you change the ringer volume, you can make it silent.
So if Siri's open, you can change Siri's volume.
Exactly.
But if it's not open, you'll just be changing the ringer volume.
Exactly. And that was very embarrassing for me recently. So I was very glad that that was sorted out. So and I apologize. I don't have the person who put it on my tweet, but I really appreciate it.
And I do have to think that the new Google search will be my pick for iOS because that does add Siri-like features. It's free, and you can get it now for iPhone and iPad. All right, we're going to go live to the Disney call. We want to thank you for joining us. Andy Yanako, glad you're safe and sound. Chicago Sun-Times, Celestial Waste of Bandwidth, CWOB.com. We'll see you next week. Same with you, Renee Ritchie, imore.com. How about you, Alex? You think you'll be back next week?
I will most likely be available. I don't know if I'll be here or not. I might be in LA.
Because I am not. I'm going to be in Australia. We're heading down to Australia. In fact, we're having a meetup at a place in the Rocks on Tuesday, November 6th. And then Brisbane in a couple of days after that, and I'll let you know about the details. Follow my Twitter for that. And so somebody else is going to host. I think Sarah may be hosting next week. And then we'll have somebody for the week after. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget to tune in every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time for Mac Break Weekly. Take care.